Hello, hello, and welcome to our special edition. I know this may throw y'all off a little bit because it's not Monday, it is Wednesday, but we are back because for Motivational Monday, we were talking about the M word, and it was so much information, really great information, that we came back on tonight to do a special show. So we will be continuing our conversation on the M word, and I will be welcoming back our special guest, Dr. Gloria Ríchard-Davis. So, y'all, this past Monday, if you missed it, you can watch the replay. It will be on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. You can watch the replay. We talked about what is perimenopause, what is menopause, what are the myths, what are the facts about surrounding menopause? Why is there a stigma surrounding menopause? How to be a health advocate for yourself? We covered all of that, as well as the racial disparities that African American women face with menopause. So we covered all of that on Monday. So if you missed it, please go back and check it out on our YouTube page, channel, and our Facebook page, because it was some great information. So tonight, we're going to be continuing the conversation, and we will be talking about the sexual dysfunction and how menopause affects women in the workplace. Y'all, these are two hot topics. And again, we have brought back our very special guest, Dr. Gloria Ríchard-Davis. So we are going to delve right into our show on this evening. We're going to do our introduction of her. And after that introduction, hey, we're going to be ready to get right in it. We'll see you shortly.
I'm Dr. Gloria Ríchard-Davis. I'm a fertility specialist. I also specialize in perimenopause, menopausal care, along with other women health specialty at UMS. Great. From the beginning of treatment, the information that I gather from the patient is really used to develop a management plan that is compassionate, patient-centered, and comprehensive. I am an advocate of patient education because I think it's important for the patient to understand what their problem is and what the options are for them to be empowered in making that healthcare decision. I work with them as a partner in educating them and then listening to what they really want and how do we get to that endpoint that they want. The reason why I became a physician was to help people. But we get as much gratification from taking care of patients as the patients do in receiving care. And it always amazes me how much it really means to me to do a good job with my patients and to feel like we've done everything possible for them at the end of those visits.
Dr. Gloria Ríchard-Davis currently serves as Executive Director for the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DDEI. She is the Director of Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and has been the Medical Director at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences since 2013. As Executive Director for DDEI, she works directly with leadership at UAMS across 5 professional colleges and graduate studies, statewide and nationally, with a focus on increasing diversity in our workplace, creating a more inclusive environment, and elimination of health disparities in quest of health equity. As Division Director, she developed a comprehensive full-service fertility service from inception. Dr. Ríchard-Davis has extensive experience and is board certified in both reproductive endocrinology and infertility and obstetrics and gynecology. Dr. Ríchard-Davis is an oral board examiner for the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology. She has served and currently serves in leadership positions in numerous professional organizations. Her many years of research and active interest include health disparities, menopausal health, breast cancer in women of color,
female sexual dysfunction, uterine fibroids, ovulation induction, reproduction endocrine disruptors, and assisted reproductive technologies. Most recently, she led the development of UAMS culinary medicine program utilizing the food as medicine curriculum, providing education to health professionals, community education, and research. Please help us welcome to our virtual stage Dr. Gloria Ríchard-Davis.
Well,
Good
good
evening.
evening. Good evening. How are you, Dr. Richard?
I am excellent. How are you, Jackie?
Yes, ma'am, I am doing well. Thank you so much for coming back with us on this evening, this special evening, to continue our conversation on the M word.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. So we have already we talked about on, as I stated earlier, on Monday, all of the different things, all things menopause. And so tonight we are going to be talking about two topics that are really some hot topics that we do not discuss quite often, rather. And the first one, we're going to just dive right into this, talking about the sexual dysfunction that women experience when they are going through menopause. So let's talk about that from the bedroom to the boardroom. That's
I love that. I love that. Okay.
yes, ma'am. And what is happening in the bedroom with women and menopause? Tell us, Dr. Richard, how does sex, what happens after menopause?
What
What
changes?
happens to us?
What changes? Well,
Yes.
one of the things that changes when we go through menopause, our ovaries produce estrogen, which estrogen is really a critical hormone for women because so many of our organs and tissue is estrogen sensitive. It's estrogen dependent, right? And so our reproductive organs, to include our vaginal tissue, our bladder, is very much estrogen dependent. So when you lose that estrogen, what you start to experience is some thinning and dryness of that vaginal tissue, right? So of course, when you're engaging in intercourse, you need lubrication. And so you can use artificial lubricants, whether it is a moisturizer or a lubricant, and that helps to ease some of the dryness or discomfort that's associated with the dryness, but it doesn't reverse the thinning of the vaginal tissue. And that vaginal tissue is intended to be sort of, we say with rugae, with folds, right? And you think about it, it's tough tissue. It's intended to take a pounding,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so literally.
Yeah.
And so when it bends, it's not as healthy. The integrity is not as great. And so there may be some pain with intercourse as well.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, if you have pain with intercourse, then you tend to not be as interested in engaging.
Right, right. It's not as, we're all adults on here tonight, so it's not as pleasurable
Yes,
when,
exactly right.
yeah, when you are going through that. I saw that a study that was by the Hopkins Medicine, it showed that half of women in their 50s continue to have intercourse. However, by their 70s, only 27% are still having intercourse. So, and we know that that helps connect the partners, that intimacy, the intercourse. What could be some other ways that they could have that connection, when you can't have intercourse?
Absolutely. I mean, there are certainly multitudes of ways in which we, especially as women, right? We feel connected to our partners emotionally. And a lot of times that's through engaging in activities that we enjoy. If my husband prepares me a great meal,
Yeah.
I'm feeling real close to him, right?
Yeah.
Or a dinner out. So you
Mhm.
can have date nights, look at activities that you both enjoy doing,
Mhm.
staying physically active. And I do want to talk about that because, I talked about the changes that menopause causes in terms of our vaginal mucosa, but our sexual health is not just about hormones. It's about how we feel, our quality of life, our health. It's really all tied into that.
Mhm.
And if you are healthy and active, then you are more likely to stay engaged
Yeah.
sexually, right? And that holds true for your partner as well.
Right.
So, we haven't talked about the men and sexual dysfunction, but
Mhm.
erectile dysfunction is very common as men get older.
Mhm.
And if they have other chronic diseases like hypertension and diabetes, they're more likely to have erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
So, staying healthy, managing chronic disease, whether you're a woman or a man, is critical to your self life, to your sex life.
Mhm. And listen, let me tell you. So my parents, we just gave them a birthday party. My father turned 80 in February and my mom turned 75 in January. So we gave them a party together. So their speech at the end was just what you just stated. So my father, so every chance they get, they want people to know that they are still alive and well. But my father shared that same thing about taking care of yourself,
Mhm.
the lifestyle that you lead and being active. And, he was like, yeah, we still have desires. And, of course, us, the children, are like, we really don't want to hear that. That is true, what you just said, because they said it themselves at 80
Yeah,
and 75.
yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
And you need the stamina, right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely, absolutely. Um, I like this information as well that you sent to me, and I'm gonna read this where it says sexual dysfunctions are highly prevalent, affecting about 43% of women
Mhm.
and 31% of men. Hyperactive sexual desire disorder has been reported in approximately 30% of women and 15% of men in population-based studies and is associated with a wide variety of medical and psychologic causes.
Mhm.
Those are some pretty high numbers.
They are high numbers.
Mhm.
And I think again, because we are we're very complex, right?
Mhm.
Especially women. There's so many things that affects our sexual interest, our sexual desire. We talk about health, stress. If
Right.
you have a multitude of things, I have this graphic which shows it's like instrument panels, right? And for the woman's sexual interest to occur, you have all these different buttons, right?
Mm.
It's, we don't compartmentalize very well. So if I have a lot of stuff going on at work, I'm busy, my brain is still running, the kids are needing something, my parents are needing something else. It's hard for me to quiet down
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
focus, right,
Mhm.
on sex. So that's one of the things that we know creates some sexual
Mhm.
dysfunction or reduction in desire. So that's one of the first things that we talk about is, how's your relationship? Is there conflict? Are there other things going on from a psychosocial perspective?
Mhm.
We typically will look at hormonal levels. I talked about the lack of estrogen. Well, one of the things that for menopausal women, we can replace estrogen, we can replace progesterone. So if that were the only thing, that could be handled through replacement therapy.
Mhm.
But you have to make sure that there aren't the other issues. And then I mentioned for the men, diabetes. Well, diabetes affects our small vessels. And so when we talk about vascular supply to tissues like even the clitoris, to the vagina, right? If you have damage to those vascular structures, those vessels, then you may not be getting all the vascular, the engorgement, right, that you should. And then the last thing I'm going to say is one of the things, even in younger women, we talk about is allowing time for foreplay, allowing that time for your body to go through those normal changes that it needs to go through, so that you don't have pain with intercourse, because pain is a great aversion, right?
Right.
And even for young women who don't have vaginal dryness, who don't normally have pain with intercourse, if they have other conditions like endometriosis or fibroids, or if they're stressed, right? They're not relaxing, they're not allowing the normal physiological changes to occur, then that could cause some sexual dysfunction as well.
Yeah. And, when you were talking about just us women and we have so much going on, and when you add the menopause in the mix, of course, that's just like a volcano probably erupting. But that's so true because I know, like, even for myself, just to be honest, if I have so many things going on throughout the day, my mind is not there for my husband, at night. And so then we have the menopause again in the mix. And so that just kind of adds to all of that, what's happening. So I think it's important for us to have that communication, with our partners. And
Absolutely.
so our partners can also understand that, okay, this is what's going on with you. And they're not just, I don't want to say like minimizing it, but if they really don't know and don't understand it, then
Yes, yes.
that could definitely be a problem. So I really believe communication is really key for
Oh,
that.
it is critical. We talk about the 3 C's of intimacy, and communication being one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Commitment,
Absolutely.
communication, compromise.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
And the things that, we also recognize that for men and women, we view sex differently as well. And my husband's always talking about that. For
Mhm.
him, if he's stressed, sex is a great stress reducer,
Yeah.
right? For
Yeah.
me, you're just adding to my stress.
Right. Right.
Okay, let's just be clear here
Yeah. Yeah.
and make sure we understand we are different in that sense.
Yeah. I agree. I
100% communicate.
Yeah, that is so true. Dr. Richard, so we're wrapping up this talk on the sexual dysfunction. What are some things that you just would like to leave with us before we hop to our next topic that we're going to be talking about tonight?
I think is that if you are experiencing some of those changes that I mentioned, especially if you're menopausal, you notice the dryness, you notice the pain with intercourse, you don't have to live with that.
Mm,
There is definitely options for you to restore normal vaginal mucosa. So intimacy is not painful, or sex is not painful for you. So
mhm.
don't sit there and suffer in silence. And I know a lot of women who do. And
Yeah,
oftentimes it's not until, when they come in for their exam, for me, I'm looking at that tissue. And if I see those changes occurring, I'm typically asking those questions.
mhm.
But if your physician doesn't ask, then you need to be ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
And as I said on the previous segment, don't wait until the hand hits the doorknob, right?
Mhm. Right.
Be
Right.
ready to engage in that conversation
Yeah.
before then.
Yeah, I agree. And have that list of
Yes.
things that you need to be talking to your doctor about. That is so true. Okay, guys. Well, we are enjoying this conversation. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. And we're going to be talking about. So tonight, our topic is from the bedroom to the boardroom. Okay, so now we've talked about the bedroom. So now we're going to go on into the boardroom. Yes. It affects this menopause. It affects us ladies, those of us that still go to work, and even those that don't. Like I'm at home and I'm working from home. And let me tell you, It's something else. So we're going to talk about that after this commercial break. We'll be right back.
Looking to be inspired and motivated? Join us for Motivational Monday with Jackie O every first Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, streaming live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram at Jackie O. For more information on Jackie O, visit us at www.jackieo.com. Did you know that self-care is health-care? Self-care is defined by the steps a person can take to stay healthy mentally and physically. Especially for women, self-care can often take a back seat to caring for everyone else around them. Knowing that maintaining your health and well-being is the only way you'll have the capacity to care for others can be the first step in your own self-care routine. Don't know where to start on your self-care journey? Download our complimentary self-care planner and 30-day calendar, Oh Girl, It's Time to Glow, at www.jackieo.com. Sometimes you just need a little Kickstarter to get you going. There is nothing as powerful as a mother's love, and nothing as healing as a child's soul. Join us for a special Motivational Monday with me, your girl, Jackie O, the Mother's Day edition, on Monday, May 1st, as we chat with moms around the world on the challenges and the joys of motherhood. Nothing like a mother's love. We'll see you Monday, May 1st at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time with me, your girl, Jackie O.
All right, welcome back, you all. We have been continuing our conversation on this evening with Dr. Gloria Ríchard-Davis, where we have been talking about the M word. And prior to our commercial, we were talking about sexual dysfunction that women have due to menopause. And we're going to keep the conversation going from the bedroom to the boardroom. Now we're here in the boardroom, and we want to talk about how menopause affects women in the workplace. What are some symptoms? What are some things, Dr. Richard, that is happening to us women in the workplace?
Yeah. You know, in the previous segment, we talked about some of the symptoms like hot flushes, night sweats, sleep disturbances, having the brain fog because you don't get restful sleep. And so those symptoms and those interruptions of your night's sleep certainly bleeds over, right, into the workplace. Because if you're not well rested, you're not going to be performing at peak level, right, or optimally functioning. And then as you're at work, if you are experiencing those hot flushes, the sweats, the perspiring, you know, it's disruptive. Whether it is, you know, you feeling like, oh my God, I can feel this sensation coming on, right? I can't stop it. And, you know, do I stay in this meeting? Do I leave the meeting?
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking about all those things at work. And so certainly it does disrupt your focus. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Even we talk about things like dressing in layers, because if you have multiple layers on and you get really hot, you can at least take some of those upper layers off.
Right.
And you know, the whole idea behind the hot flushes and what women experience, we say that our thermostat is broken, and it's sort of that, because we have what we call our thermo neutral zone. So there is our hormones and typically keep us regulated in terms of our body temperature. And so when we get a disruption of it, we have these swings, right, in body temperature that, as even a small swing, may precipitate the flushing that we experience.
Okay. Yeah. Let me tell you, that's all I can say is yes.
Yes.
Like,
Anyone who's experienced it knows.
yes, I have experiencing it.
Yes.
So definitely. And the layers, I do agree with that, with dressing in the layers, because you can just take off whatever it is, that top layer, when you feel it coming on.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And
How
don't be afraid to turn that thermostat down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How important is it for us, or for our employers, especially, to understand women that are going through menopause?
I think we have more and more publications that's coming out now
Hmm.
talking about women in the workforce and the impact that menopause is having on women. We're finding that some women are choosing to leave the workforce because they can't seem to manage it, or they may not be going up for that promotion because they're worried about other things, right? Or they're not as rested. They don't have the same stamina,
Hmm.
so that they don't feel like they can take on, right, additional responsibilities.
Right.
And so I think it's really important for us to recognize that those things have serious impact on
Hmm.
our quality of life and our careers. And for women in the 50s, you're at your peak earning potential.
Yeah.
That's when you are set for leadership roles and everything else, right?
Mhm. Right.
So, don't let the disruption of menopause interfere with your ability to reach whatever goal it is that you have. There
Hmm.
are treatments for these vasomotor symptoms. And, we talked a lot in the previous segment about Black women in particular. We tend to not get our information from our healthcare providers as much as we should, right?
Hmm.
I know that for our culture, there tends to be that underpinning of mistrust, right? Not necessarily, or we don't feel like we're heard. We're not
Right.
really listened to. But you have to find a way to get the information that you need and to get the treatment that you need so that you have a good quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. That is important. Yeah, to have the treatment that you need. So do you feel that you should let your employer know, especially if you're like it's really bad? Should you let them know that this is what's happening? Human resources, somebody?
That's an individual decision, right? Because there's some women who feel like it might be weaponized against them.
Mhm.
And so it depends on your situation, your employment situation. If you feel comfortable, you might be in a small work environment and you have a great relationship with your boss, or you have a close relationship with HR and you're comfortable having those conversations. Or if they too happen to be women
Right.
who maybe are the same age, right? Then that's a lot easier to have that conversation. But I do think that women feel reluctant in the workplace to bring that up because they feel like it will be used against them in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Ageism.
Yeah, that is true. And so, with all of that being said, because some women have it really severe,
Mhm.
should menopause be considered a disability?
I don't see it as a disability because it's part of what we all go through. It's natural, right?
Mhm.
And vasomotor symptoms is extraordinarily common. Probably 80% of women who go through menopause have those hot flushes. Now, the extent differs, but again, for Black women, we tend to have more severe hot flushes, lasting longer, lasting for a longer period of time,
Mhm.
up to sometimes 10 years. And so for us to understand it's not necessarily something that's just a fleeting thing that it will pass, right?
Right.
If you are still having vasomotor symptoms that is disrupting your life, please seek treatment. We have the whole discussion about hormone versus non-hormonal therapy. We have both. We have both options. So if you're someone, and there's a lot of myths about hormones, right? And women being concerned about using hormones from a breast cancer perspective to, heart attacks. And the risk, if you are healthy and you don't have, underlying chronic diseases, is very low. Even if you have family history of breast cancer, it doesn't mean that you can't take hormones. But again, if you're someone who can't or you choose not to, there are non-hormonal options that you can use.
And the doctor can recommend that to you or prescribe
Absolutely.
that. Okay.
Absolutely. So the doctor should be able to prescribe that for you.
Mhm.
And I always tell women that everyone is not trained the same.
Mhm.
And menopause happens to be, I mean, there are 5,000 women who enter menopause every day in the US, right? We are the largest growing segment of the population.
Mm.
But if you look at our training as obstetrician and gynecologist, we don't get a lot of training in menopause. So I actually did additional training.
Mm.
My fellowship had medical endocrinology, which includes menopause in it. And then I went beyond that to do a certification process in menopause through the
Okay.
North American Menopause Society. And that is sort of our gold ribbon. So if you look at menopause.org,
Mhm.
there is a patient education portal and there is a professional portal. So those of us who belong to that organization who are North American Menopause Certified Practitioners NCMP, you'll see that behind people's names,
Okay.
providers' names. That means that they've gone the extra mile. They have taken it upon themselves to really learn and understand the management of menopause.
Okay.
So if you're not getting the answer you need, go to that site. You can search for an NCMP provider in your area. There are
Mhm.
also online services like My Alloy, where I know that all of their providers are NCMP. They're certified, you know.
Okay.
So if you can't find someone in your area, then that's another resource that you can.
Okay. And we'll definitely put that information, guys, in the comment section so that you can look into that. That's really good to know. Dr. Richard, as we are wrapping up, what are some final words that you would like to say and leave with our audience in reference to menopause in the workplace?
I would say don't suffer in silence, right? We use our villages for other things. So certainly talking to other women helps. And things that also helps is making sure you are um, incorporating stress reduction because there are things that trigger hot flushes, stress, spicy foods. If you look on menopause.org, it gives you a list of those things, those triggers.
Mhm.
So know what they are
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that you can avoid them or you can mitigate against it occurring as frequently.
Yeah.
And don't hesitate to seek treatment. Don't suffer
Mhm.
because we want you to be healthy. We want you to enjoy this phase of your life. This is some of the best years ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. And when you were saying that about not suffering in silence, do you feel that now we are really beginning to talk about it more, talk about menopause, bringing it to the forefront more?
Yes, I do think that we are. I still
Mhm.
don't think it's enough. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the more we talk about this, the more we normalize it,
Right.
the more likely it is that women will bring the topic up, that they'll feel comfortable
Hmm.
saying they're experiencing these things. Because a lot of women will say, well, my mother never talked about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
I had no idea. And
Right.
then physicians, because the time element is so constrained, right? In terms of the time that you have with patients,
Hmm.
you can't get to everything. But it would be ideal if for women in their 40s, we started having these conversations with them because women will start to have these symptoms before they are truly menopausal. In the perimenopause, they start to have it. And for
And what
some,
is that age when they start in the perimenopause? What age is that, the average age?
well, the average is like 10 years before you go through menopause,
Okay.
which is average age is 52, right?
Okay.
But you will have some women in their, some women actually go through premature menopause. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Hmm.
you'll have women in their late 30s and 40s that will say, they're starting to experience these symptoms. It may be fleeting, it may not be persistent,
Hmm.
but it worsens as time goes on. And the physician that they're seeing doesn't really see that as enough of a disturbance that it warrants treatment. So again, I say, be your own advocate.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Be your own advocate. Well, Dr. Richard, again, thank you so much for being with us on this evening. And y'all, there were so many takeaways. So we hope that you go back, watch the replay, take notes, share with others, share this video with others, because there was so much great information. And one of the main things that we took away is just don't suffer in silence. That was one of the things, and get treatment, whether it's traditional or if it's non-traditional. I think is that the other word, non-traditional hormones, that get the treatment that you need so you do not suffer in silence.
And
But
one last thing,
yes, ma'am.
don't waste a lot of money on over-the-counter things.
Mm, okay.
You see that happening a lot.
Okay.
It is much better to go on, see your provider, and get treatment.
And get the treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all heard it. Go to see your doctor your, to get the treatment that you need, because everyone is different.
Yes.
Everyone's makeup is different. And so, what works for me may not work for someone else. So we really do need to get with our providers. So, y'all, thank you again so much for tuning in on this evening. We really hope that you learned something, and something that you can use. And you may not be able to use it right now, but keep it in your bank, because believe me, you're going to have to withdraw it. As long as you're living, ladies, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So, you're going to want to be able to write that check. But thank you all for joining us. We will see y'all on Monday, May 1st, for our special edition of Mother's Day. And so
Oh,
until then, we pray that you have a good rest of your week, and you all have a great Easter resurrection weekend. We will see you the next time. Have a good one.
absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Jackie, for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richard. Good night, everyone.
Good night.